Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by GuitarZoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to GuitarZoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
I put 10 gauge strings on here yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's big, right? For you.
For me, I'm a tiny human, so throwing 10 gauge on there is a little thick for me, but I'm trying to get used to it. It's just such a great sounding guitar, so.
That thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
So 10 gauge strings.
Well, and this is a shorter neck length, right? So it's a little bit easier to play. Like I wouldn't throw 10 gauge probably on my normal Ibanez guitars or something with the 25 and a half scale length. So it's a little bit easier, but.
Gotcha.
Hello, Byram.
How's it going, guys?
Rollins. Awesome.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Roll Tide.
Paul from Arizona. Hey, Steve. Hi, Paul from Arizona.
Lars.
Home sweet. Yep.
Lars from Stockholm is here. Cool.
Nice to see you too, Michael. All
Birmingham. Right. Birmingham, UK. Spot of tea for you there, Steve. A spot of tea. That's my best British accent.
So just let us know if you can hear us okay, if you can hear my voice and, of course, the guitar. I was struggling with this thing to try and get the best sound out of this and out of this Restream software. So hopefully it works okay.
Roll Tide. Patrick Valdez. Welcome, Patrick. Hey, guys, if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, make sure you put your name in because we don't, for whatever reason, the software that we're using doesn't show us your name.
It's not the software. It's a limitation that Facebook has for privacy issues.
Oh.
Yep.
Got it. Well, anyway, if you want us to see your name, guys, on Facebook, make sure you put your name on there and tell us where you're from. Thanks for joining us today. We're doing a little creative blues soloing session. This is always fun. Steve, thanks for having me. I actually totally forgot about this, so I'm 100% not prepared. Just want to let you know. No one cares what I think. I'm just here to learn like everybody else. Wow, someone from Lebanon, from South End, UK, from North Carolina, the Philippines, Detroit. Wait, sorry, these things are going fast. Detroit, Rock City, Michigan, for sure. Indiana. Awesome. This is so cool, man. To me, this is like magic. Every time I get on here, there's all these people from all over the planet. It's fun, dude. Like, is this really happening? Guys, thanks for being here. Really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us, to maybe learn a few things, to have a little fun. We're broadcasting this live right now. And if you'd like to learn some creative blues soloing, stick around. Some tips and some tricks. Again, as you're piling in here, make sure that you let us know where you're from. If you want to learn, go deep dive into the stuff we're going to be talking about today. Steve has a brand new course, never before seen, in fact. It's called Creative Blues Soloing, and it's available right now at guitarzoom.com. Just go there and click on the big link at the top. Trinidad and Tobago, how do I say that? I don't know.
Istanbul, India. Yeah, I know. It's always amazing to me.
Melbourne, India, Liverpool, Canada, Phoenix, Ken Johnson, Tony Lee. Guys, this is so cool. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. All right, so here's the way it's going to work today, guys. Steve's going to do his thing. Don't forget to minimize me, Steve, because nobody really wants to see me when you do your demos.
Yeah, I will.
We're going to try to answer some questions. So if you have questions as we go along, pop in your question to wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Facebook, or wherever. And we have someone here, Michael, who's going to help us try to take some of the best questions, and we'll try to answer those for you. It should be super cool. Then we're going to be done in about an hour. And we'll also, if you're joining us late or whatever, don't worry. This will be recorded, and then we're going to put it on the YouTube channel. So in a nice, tidy playlist there for you with all of the previous ones we've done, which are, how many of these have you done, Steve? It's quite a few.
This is my 9th one.
This is the 9th one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Over what, like a couple weeks or something?
This is the 3rd week.
3rd week. Okay. So over 3 weeks, Steve's done 9 of these for you guys.
Sorry, this is the 4th week.
Is it?
Yeah.
Crazy. So the entire month of January here, getting kicked off with creative blues soloing. And by the way, speaking of blues, I listened to almost an entire live session, a live concert that was recorded by ZZ Top in Texas. And dude, it was so freaking good. It's available on Spotify. It's just like, It was just good. It was in Houston, which is, I think that's where Billy Gibbons is from. It was just a great. So anyway, speaking of blues, if you guys want to check that out, I'm fascinated by Spotify. I'm obsessed with it. Just go in there and find anything you want and listen. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Steve, take it away, my friend. Create a blues soloing.
Okay, well, today what we're going to do is we're just, again, expanding what we talked about last time. I know in the last session we went into modes a little bit, and I know that's a little confusing for people, and so that's why I only dipped my toe into it a little bit just to kind of explain to you how we could use that. And again, if you've missed any of these live sessions that I've done, please go back and watch them because there's just a ton of information. So each one that we're doing, I'm just kind of stacking on to the last one that we did. And so today what I thought is I would talk to you a little bit about chord tones versus non-chord tones, basically melodic soloing, trying to give your solos a purpose, a direction to go. We've talked about phrasing and we've talked about all the different ways you can use major and minor and pentatonic and, again, modes and parallel movement that we've talked about before where I play in A and then I play in D and I play in E, all of these different kinds of things. And so what I want to do today to kind of top off this whole thing is just make sure that you understand that between choosing the scale that you have, thinking about your phrasing, which we've talked about, and landing on the right notes at the right time really can get you a long way. And then you add in the flavor of licks or patterns or something that you might have, and you can just elevate it that much more. But this part of landing on the right notes at the right time is really crucial. Now, when I say that, I use the word emphasis. So emphasis to me is just you're trying to make some note sound more important than something else. So if you're creating a thematic melody, something that you want it to resonate in somebody's brain, you really need to use the same notes, even though the chords might be changing, right? So you might do something where you're going to go, and then you might do that again, but maybe you change the last note. Right? Just something simple like that, where you're creating a theme, an idea that you're going to use over and over and over throughout the song. So if you think of like, right? Something like that, which you may have heard before. That's enough to playing that so they don't shut me down, right? But that idea of just playing that little bit of something, that's the theme. That's the idea. And there's chords being changed underneath there, behind there, but you keep going. So the first thing that we need to understand is when you're thinking about melody, you're either trying to make a connection to each chord as they come up, which we're going to do, or you're creating a theme, an idea that gets played regardless of the chord changes that are happening. Now, when you're writing, sometimes you have to spend a little time trying to figure out whether or not the theme that you've written actually functions well with the chords that are underneath it. Right? So what I wanted to do here is just, all I did was I went out to YouTube here and just grabbed a track. I had a bunch of stuff to do this morning, so I didn't make any tracks or anything this morning, just a backing track here. This one's in A minor. Now, minor is always a nice place to start when you're trying to play melodic because it's so much more dramatic than major is. So don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that major can't be dramatic. I'm just saying if you're starting and trying to figure this out, playing over a minor chord progressions, an easier way of trying to go about this, okay? So it just, minor lends itself to being very melodic, and dramatic is a great word. So if I play this, let's just listen to it for a second. So again, I'm gonna keep playing it, all right? This is, the first thing I think about is, what's the key? Well, the key is A minor. Okay, my hope is it's 12-bar blues. I don't know for sure. And what's the groove? Remember we talked about this? Dun, 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 decka, 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 decka. So it's a straight rhythm. It's not a triplet rhythm. It's not a swing. It's straight. There's our 4 chord. And there's our 1 chord. Okay, and this particular progression goes from, if we were playing typical 12-bar blues, it'd be A minor, D minor, and E minor. But this one actually uses an F major, and it could go to E minor or E major. It's kind of hard to tell in the actual progression here. But so the turnaround at the end, remember we talked about this, the last 4 that tell us we're going to start all over again? Instead of playing 5, 4, 1, 5, like we normally do, this one is going F, and I think it's probably major, E major, and then A minor. So why do I want to know that? Well, when that comes up, I might want to try and emphasize notes of those chords because it might make for a nice little theme, right? Or I shouldn't say theme, but just a melody. If I'm playing... And see, what I did there was I followed the F chord, and then it went to the E, so I went down to the E shape, and then it went to A. So what I did was I went back up to the note A, instead of getting, that kind of sound. I didn't want that. So I made a nice little theme by returning. Let me play that for you so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. I'm just figuring this out in real time with you right now, so.
Super cool.
Yeah. So here comes the A. Here goes my 4 chord, so I know it's coming, so what do I want to do? See? Here comes that F chord. Now, do I have to do that every time? Of course not. I can make something else, and we could try something else. But my point is that you've got this phrasing. We know we're in a straight rhythm. Dun, 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 ducka, 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 dun, 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 dun. So you're already planning out what scale you're going to use or what your options are. Not just the options written on a piece of paper, but what options can you use with your ability today, right now. You can plan for a month from now or 2 months from now or 6 months from now, and you should do that, absolutely. But what do you have for skills for understanding right now that you can apply and execute? And we've been talking about that this whole time is, as humans, certainly Americans, it's overconsumption all the time. So the thing I want you to understand is it's not just understanding and going, I remember that he said I could use this and this and this and this. It doesn't matter if you understand that, it's that you've got to be able to use that. So that's why you don't want to get overblown or bogged down with just too much information. You got to figure out what works for you, okay? So when I get to this part where I'm thinking about the melody a little bit, I've already planned out what scales I have, what I can see on my fretboard, all that kind of thing. I figured out that I have a straight groove. And I know that if maybe the 8th notes, dun, 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 are okay, but trying to go to 16th notes, decka, 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 are not physically possible right now for me because it's just too fast. And we talked about that too. Maybe I'm just going to use some pull-offs to go to that 16th note feel without having to develop all my technique to be able to play in 16th notes. Maybe I just dabble in it by just throwing some hammer-ons or pull-offs in here or there. See, always try and remember some simple things that you can do to make it effective for you, even though you haven't figured out the long haul of particular technique or something that you're trying to play. Okay? So I might step into this a little bit by just jamming. So not melody yet, just what scale am I going to use? What's the phrasing, right? So I go in there. To be honest with you, I can't really turn off the melody thing because I can hear the chords coming, so my fingers want to go to the proper notes anyway, but I'm just trying to show you. My 1. Okay? So as you start combining all these ideas together, it becomes more and more like music. It begins to sound more and more like you want. So if that kind of makes sense, I know I'm kind of throwing a lot at you because I'm combining some of the things that we've talked about before. But the most important thing is that when the music starts, I've got a plan. I've got some ideas of things that I want to do. And I know I'm using A minor. And I know I'm using D minor. So I'm already aware of those shapes, right? Maybe you're thinking in terms of triads and the notes on your fretboard. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just thinking in terms of chord shapes that you can see on your guitar. But when that A minor comes up, I don't just want to go... I don't want to do that. I got to try and make some sort of connection to the chord that's going to sound melodic. And again, if I want to play this, I'm playing 8 to 5 here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll come up to the 8 with my first finger, and I'll do something else to make it sound a bit more interesting. Instead of just playing 8, 5, I might do that hammer on up to 10. You see? So there's lots of different things that you can do. What amp am I playing through? I'm playing through the Kemper right now. That's what I'm doing. There's some Fender Twin reverb tones that I absolutely love in this thing that I use a lot. So I've always loved Fender Twins, and I don't own one. I don't see myself buying one. So the Kemper facilitates me having sort of a Fender Twin tone.
Is that it back there? Is that the Kemper? They can see on your right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So
I'm going to
anyway,
get my hands on one of those at some point, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't really question whether or not it sounds exactly like or doesn't sound like. I don't have a Fender Twin. So what I have right now doesn't sound anything like a Fender Twin. Nothing sounds far less like a Fender Twin.
That's awesome. Hey, let me throw this at you, Steve. Actually, let me ask everybody who's on this call. First of all, thank you guys again for being here. If you're just now joining us today, we're doing creative blues soloing. And Steve's showing you some super cool ways you can have follow chords and choosing scales and that kind of thing. We're kind of wrapping this series up on creative blues soloing. Everything that we're talking about today is covered in Steve's new course. And it's called Creative Blues Soloing by Steve Stine. And it's available right now at guitar-zoom.com. And a whole lot of people have already signed up for this thing. And if you have, guys, if you've already actually gotten this course, come back and tell us, post here for us, wherever you're watching this, what you hope to learn from this course. Why did you invest in it? And what do you hope to learn? I also have a question for everybody who's watching this right now. I would be curious to know, why is guitar playing important to you? Why is guitar playing important to you? Everybody has their own reasons. Everybody has their own styles. Everybody has their favorite bands, their favorite guitar players who inspired them. I always love reading your stories, and I know Steve does too. But why is it important? And I think I saw Steve Lemoyne on here just a second ago. We have people that have been following us, or following you, Steve, for a good decade now or longer. We've been doing this since 2005. We have people that continue to come back and continue to learn, and we have some real amazing success stories. But why do you play? What's the thing that's inspiring you to continue to want to learn? And how can we, what's the one thing that's driving you to want to learn more? And that would kind of help tailor this message and the rest of this session here for you today, if we kind of knew some of those things. So let us know about that. Playing guitar is a great escape from the rat race. Boy, amen to that. Makes me forget my depression state. Yeah, you know what? I get it. It's fun and releases emotion. Yeah. Investing my time into something worthwhile. Yeah, I love that. It's challenging. It's satisfying to hear myself make music. Yeah. Makes me feel relaxed to play guitar, and Steve's an awesome teacher. I got the blues course and many others to open up everything I love playing. Thank you so much for your support. It's fun and releases a great release from the workday. Yeah. Keeps me, guitar equals releasing depression. Yeah. Playing soothes the soul. These things are flying in. Helps calm me down and feel positive. I love it. I love it. Thank you for
a little ways just to answer some questions once you get some things there.
Yeah. The expression of your inner thoughts and feelings, says Sam Stamos. Lars said, I got the creative blues soloing for a few days. Where did it jump to? A few days ago, the bonuses stuff first. Sorry, I missed it. These guys, thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. This is super cool. So the question, guys, is why is guitar playing important to you? You can think about it a little bit. We would love to hear your comments, and that would be super cool. All right, Steve, what did you want to do? The questions?
Well, there's just some questions I thought I would do super quick here, if that's okay. Okay, so Byram from Facebook says, can you give us an example of the major scale over the 4-chord? Yes, and just so we're clear, Byram, what I'm playing over right now, you wouldn't go to major anytime because the chords are minor. Other than maybe this weird F chord that all of a sudden is in this particular, I'm pointing over here because my screen is over there. But in this case, you wouldn't go major at all. But if you were playing a major chord progression, A really great thing to do is over the 4 chord, you might be playing in A minor over the 1. And then when that 4 chord comes up, it just has to be something simple like that. The nice thing about major, the hard thing about major is when you play, it doesn't really have a lot of flavor, but if you add, like, for instance, like right in this range, that's kind of where you need to be. So you might do something in minor over the 1, and then over the 4. Right, now see how I'm going to the A both times? So I might change that up. Over the 1 chord, maybe I go to the 7. And then over the 4 chord, that's where maybe I go to the 1 chord. I can do all kinds of different things like that. But that's just something simple over the 4 chord would be fine. Let's see here. Do you play through your monitors? I do. I have an amp on the floor that I play through. So I get a mix of both monitor and cabinet when I'm playing, just because it makes it feel more real to me. If I play strictly through monitors, it feels less real to me. So I always like to have a cab in the room that kind of gives me that tone. So I'll kind of balance between the monitors that I'm using and the cabinet at the same time. So let's see here. Doug says, I noticed that you like to slide into your dominant note. I do that a lot, yeah. And I do a lot of sliding. I know I've told that story a million times, but I watched this guy play, and he was just he was big into sliding, that sort of thing. And I just thought it was so cool how he would do that all the time. And it adds so much to the sound of the guitar when you learn how to add those kind of, again, I always call them vocal effects, human effects, bending, sliding, hammer-ons, pull-offs, vibrato, that sort of thing. Those things are just so important. Tony says, do you subconsciously use plotting points as a starting point to follow the chords? Yeah, I'm definitely plotting points, whether I'm thinking about it in terms of the chord shape or the interval or something. But for sure, the way I can describe it is I'm anticipating the change. It doesn't mean that every time I make it, that there's a chord change that I have to acknowledge the next chord. I don't. If I'm in the middle of playing, like let's say I'm doing something and let me get to a part where it's changing. So here comes the part. See how right there was a bunch of chord changes happening, but I was into a lick that I really like, so I wasn't acknowledging the chords at that point. I was just playing this lick to create energy, right? This repetition creates energy. So it's not like every time there's a chord change, I have to acknowledge it and I have to obey it by going to something relative to that chord. If I'm off and running, which often happens, I'll just go with it. But then I always remember it's ebb and flow, yin and yang, up and down, whatever you want to call it. If I'm doing that, at some point I need to come out of that. Because if I do that the entire time, it's not energizing anymore. It's the norm. There's nothing else happening. So I have to come out of that again and bring it back down and do something differently. Maybe it's a different tempo or a different dynamic or a different scale option, right, that we've talked about. Or maybe it's chord chasing. Maybe it's trying to find those notes over those chords. It could be all kinds of different things that I could do.
Did you see the question on that first lick that you did? Can you walk us through that?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what my first lick was.
I don't either.
I have no idea. You might have to watch it again, and I have no idea what I did.
We're going to record this, guys. Or it's going to be recorded.
Yeah, I have no idea what licks I'm playing. And we talked about that too. I really don't think about any of that kind of stuff. Now, I've been playing a long time. I've been playing not only many years, but many, many, many hours. So what we have talked about, though, is that you build this surplus of inventory, if you will, that you absorb into yourself. So you're not thinking lick 17, lick 23. It's more an organic thing that happens. There's a million things that I'm not playing that I would love to play. I just can't think of what they are at the moment, because when I start playing, I'm just going with what naturally works for the way I play. And when I'm practicing, just like you, when I'm practicing, I have things that I don't normally do that I'm adding into my playing, but they're not organic yet. They're not well prepared yet enough to where they're going to be automated. So I have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and not just the lick or the idea, but I have to practice jamming and make it part of the way I move across the fretboard, if that makes sense. That's how you keep building things. Everything's got to become internalized. Because if they're just concepts out here that you practice, it's hard to make them something that you can use when the music actually starts.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Everybody's watching this. When you're looking back on, let's say, the last year, we're kind of in a new year here rolling over, and everybody's talking about goal settings and creating some new milestones in their playing and everything from losing weight to playing guitar better and whatever. My question is, guys, if you're looking back over the last, let's say, 12 months and evaluating your progress, can you honestly say to yourself that you're a better guitar player now than you were 12 months ago? I'm just curious, how many people would answer yes to that question? Like, yes, I am definitely a better player now than I was 12 months ago. I'm curious to know the answer to that.
Yep, and I would say along with that too, I'm going to make Dan bigger here. Better, everybody, can also mean more wisdom, right?
Yeah.
More connectivity. It doesn't always have to mean faster or more information, or it can. I'm just saying, it also can mean that your playing is sounding more real, which is just so, he was mentioning Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top. It's not like Billy Gibbons is some fast guitar player or has all these really great chops. I'm not saying he doesn't have chops. Of course he does. But he doesn't wake up every day going, man, I need to play more like insert name here. He doesn't do that. He's perfectly content with who he is. That doesn't mean maybe he doesn't learn more or whatever, but when you listen to him, does it sound like music? It sounds exactly like music,
That's beautiful. That's right, Steve. A lot of people are saying yes to this. One very honest person said, no, I've actually gotten worse. I love that kind of honesty. That's where progress begins, is actually being really super honest with yourself. Like, where are you right now? What can you do? You talk about this a lot, Steve. Like, just be you and don't try to be somebody else. So the follow-up question to that is, if you can answer yes, you're definitely a better guitar player now than you were 12 months ago. What caused you to be able to make that accomplishment? Like, what was the thing that you can point to and say, I did this, and that made me a better guitar player? And what I'm really getting at is, I think goals are great, but I think people forget about, people have a goal like, I want to be able to play whatever, Crazy Train or something. And that's their goal. But then they don't actually set themselves up for success by developing the habits that are going to help them get there. So in other words, if you want to play, let's say Crazy Train, let's say you get the tab to it and you're like, all right, well, this thing is whatever, 140 measures long. I'm going to learn one measure per day for the next 140 days. Now you're going to set up a habit of, like, you're going to sit down for, let's say, 10 minutes a day. If it's just 10 minutes a day, make a habit of picking up your guitar at a specific time in a specific place, playing and working on that specific song for that period of time. And that's a habit that'll help you get to the goal. A lot of people set goals, but they forget about the other part of actually setting themselves up for success. What do you think about that, Steve?
Like we've talked about before, it starts and ends with practice. And practice isn't just fingers on the fretboard. Sometimes practice is thinking about things and planning things out, understanding things. I've talked numerous times about the three sort of buckets, right? The fundamental bucket, the practice bucket, and the theory and understanding bucket. Not just theory, but understanding bucket. How to approach your situation musically bucket. And then you've got your creative bucket, and this is who you are. This is all this stuff that's actually happening in a musical sense. And the problem that I see with a lot of people is they, set up 482 things in the technique bucket or the fundamental bucket, or they spend all their time in the theory bucket and they don't really practice. They just understand a lot about, things. What people don't spend enough time is developing these two things and then dumping them into the third bucket to make it into music. And I understand this because when I was a kid, I couldn't do that. I could play songs for you. I could play cover tunes. I could jam along with whatever songs, pretty much note for note. But I couldn't jam my way out of a paper bag if I was jamming with a band, because I couldn't make the connection of the licks I just learned from this Iron Maiden tune or this Randy Rhoads tune or whatever it is. How can I use that over here? How is that going to apply over here? Now, the truth is, everybody doesn't need a creative bucket, right? Everybody doesn't need a theory bucket. It depends on what it is that you're trying to do. If you play in a cover band and your job is to play, again, whatever it might be, top 20 pop songs, and you get paid a lot of money and you love what you do, does it really matter to you whether you know how to improvise or not, right? Does it really matter to you that you understand a bunch of theory, or does it really matter most that you learn those songs as tight as you can possibly get them for your band, so when you guys play, people love it and they want to come out and see you? It's not my job to judge you. I'm just telling you that you have to, like Dan was saying, you have to project a little bit and think about what it is that you want to be doing, and then you need to build steps to get there. I'm long-winded today. It's a Monday, so it is Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. They all run into each other these days.
They do.
But that's something to think about a little bit is what do you need? Like there are times when I was younger, I spent uber amounts of time in the technique bucket. Man, hours, 8 hours a day I would practice things. Just a machine at that point in learning things. But I couldn't solo improvise to save my life. And then there's this whole thing of musicality, of playing with a band, and what does it feel like, and how do you interact with musicians? It's way different than playing along with YouTube. Feels entirely different. There's an entirely different thing happening there. So the most important thing is, like Dan said, begin to think about what it is that you want to accomplish, and then start making real plans on how you could get there without condescending yourself constantly. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Okay, so let's deal with who you are and what you can do and work from there, right? Yeah. And work your way up. If you're, again, I don't mean to keep talking, but if you're 13 and you're learning how to play, you've got your entire life in front of you that you could decide you're going to play 10 minutes a day or 10 hours a day. If you're 70 and you just retired and now you've taken guitar, you don't have 10 hours a day to practice. And even if you did, obviously, I'm 50 and my body doesn't work the same way it did when I was 20, right? So you have to be realistic about where you are and what it is that you want out of what you're doing. Doesn't mean you can't dream. Of course you can. But dreaming is something we do when we're sleeping. We're awake, right? You know what I mean? We gotta make a logical, realistic approach to how we're going to accomplish the things that we want to do, not just dream.
Good stuff, man. See, I love when the discussion goes like this. I'm curious, do you guys like when we get on these discussions of like this kind of theoretical stuff? Yes or no? That's a question that I have for you. Also, if you are just tuning in, don't worry. All of these sessions will be recorded for you and put in a nice playlist on the YouTube channel. We have 3 YouTube channels, by the way. I just want to mention the free resources that we have for you. We have the Guitar Zoom YouTube channel. We have Steve Stine YouTube channel. We have Guitar Songs. It's called a Guitar Zoom Songs channel. We have a podcast now. Maybe somebody could, if you can find the links to those things I just mentioned and post them up so everybody else can find it, that'd be super cool. We have a podcast now, which is apparently getting quite a few downloads and a whole lot of like good reviews, which is awesome. So we have 3 YouTube channels. We have playlists. We have a podcast for you. Lots of free learning resources. Also, guys, I want to mention, we don't do sponsorships. So you notice in this whole thing, I haven't said today's live broadcast is brought to you from Ibanez, or you know why? Because it's not sponsored by any of them. Everything that we do at GuitarZoom is sponsored by you, which is why we try to keep it ad-free as much as possible. So the way that we're able to do this is by your supporting GuitarZoom. And we have some premium subscriptions there now for you. We have a GuitarZoom membership now actually includes over 40 courses. You can just go there and just sign up. It's $99 for 6 months. Cancel anytime. And you get instant access to 40 different courses. The course that we have today is Creative Blues Soloing. It's all about blues soloing, obviously. And you can upgrade your membership. So if you get the blues soloing course and you want to then become a member, you can always do that. You can upgrade anytime. We also have lots of different courses there, depending. People are asking about scales. One person asked about relative minor and major. If you're interested in that theory stuff, we have theory courses. If you're interested in soloing, but not blues, we have that. If you're interested in just acoustic, we have a course. It's called Play Acoustic Now. So we have something there for everybody. And depending on your particular interest, you can go there and just get access to it and support us being able to do things like this for you and to continue to bring you good content, which is kind of like what we want to do around here. So thanks again for being here. And don't worry if you're a little bit late, we're going to make sure that we save this and record it, put it on the YouTube channel for you there. Where do you want to go from here, my friend?
Well, just really, that's the most important thing I want to talk about today is the idea of melody and being able to think about whether or not the note that you're playing or the note that you're trying to emphasize is part of the chord or not. We have what's called chord tones and we have what's called non-chord tones. So for instance, if I have an A minor chord that I'm playing and I go to A, it's going to fit really nice. Or if I go to the 5th fret of the 3rd string, which we call the minor third, if you know what that is. If you don't, it's okay, but it's part of the chord. It sounds really nice, okay? But there are times as well where you might go to something that isn't part of the chord. Like for instance, if I play an A note and I go, I go to the 4th fret of the 3rd string, it sounds really moody, okay? Because what I'm doing is I'm stepping outside the boundaries of that chord and playing what we call a non-chord tone, which is just a different note in the scale that isn't just the triad, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. But when I do that, it might sound really nice, and it might be something that I want to try and target. Now, I can land on that, emphasize that. And if I go like this and drop down to the A again, it's going to resolve it. It's all going to come back to normal, okay? So you can create a bit of tension by going to a note that isn't part of the chord, and it might sound really, really nice, okay? So you want to think about that. Like if I do something like this, and I play that, this is called a minor 6. I'm on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. Now there's some real tension there. When the D minor chord comes up, it's going to resolve though. You see, if I go to that note just a little bit before the 4 chord gets there, and it creates this tension over the 1 chord, over the A minor chord, it might sound like, ooh, but then as soon as the 4 chord gets there, it's going to resolve again. Let me kind of show you what I mean. Okay, so here's our 1. See how it resolves over the 4? And then right there, I can resolve it back over to the A note if I choose to. So I have to be careful with that a little bit. Again, if I emphasize everything, I always tell people this, if you emphasize all the notes of your scale, you're emphasizing nothing. If you emphasize everything, you're emphasizing nothing. So you really want to try and make sure that when you're emphasizing, you're trying to make it connect. And it might be connection through dissonance, connection through a note that isn't part of your chord. That's okay. But at some point, you're probably going to want to resolve back into something that is part of that chord as well. You just have to think about that a little bit. I'm always thinking a little bit ahead. So when that D minor or that E minor or whatever it is that we're playing, whatever we're playing, is coming, I'm thinking about trying to build up into that, right? So something that's really cool as well is if I do this same idea, here's my 4 chord. Right there. So I know if I go to this note right here, it's part of the D minor chord. The note right next to it, a half step down, is part of the A minor chord. So that makes for a nice little movement that doesn't require a lot of effort. Okay, we're gonna wait for the 4 to come around here. There's our 4. Then comes that E, right? Oh yeah, it goes to F and then E. You see? So there's sometimes very small movements that you can take. It doesn't have to be like that the entire time. Sometimes you might just build in. Now here comes my D. I know it is, so I want to get to something. Now I got to think. Here's D minor. I also have a D sitting right here. So if I might just go right back to that note again. So if I play over the 1, and here comes the 4 chord, I could go to that note again over the 4 chord, and it's going to sound great. So we don't always have to go to something different. We always don't have to go far distances. Sometimes we can just go to something very, very, very close, but because it's making that connection to the following chord, it's going to sound really cool.
Cheryl, let me see if I can grab her last name here. Oh, I lost it. Anyway, she said, can you, after you teach like that, could you play it all and put it together for us so we know what it sounds like?
Sure. So what we'll do is we'll try and put together these notes over the 4 and the 1, and we'll try and put together this over the 1 and the 4, right? So let me start it all over again so I know where I'm at here. So I've got some time over the 1 before the 4 comes, right? Okay, I know it's coming. See that? comes my F. And here's the part I was talking about. So here comes that 1. Here comes that 4. Back to the same note. Here's that 4. So this time I'm going to come up here. Here comes the 5. Now I'm doing that parallel thing. You see? So right there in my mind, thinking, here comes the 5 chord. So I go up to the 5, and I solo in E minor pentatonic. The 4, go to E minor pentatonic. And when I'm in D minor pentatonic, I know I'm just a small amount away from A minor, what I would call the 4th position of A minor pentatonic. Because again, they're all laying on top of each other. We talked about that in an earlier session, how you might not see all of that at this point. You might not see them all sitting on top. We talked about layers, if you remember that, right? Right? Layers?
Yes.
From Shrek. So when you have layers like that, you can move back and forth between those. Instead of trying to make everything just one idea, it's okay to jump around because it makes the phrasing that you play sound more interesting. Sometimes you're pentatonic, sometimes you're diatonic, sometimes you're parallel, sometimes you're emphasizing more on a melody, sometimes you're not, sometimes you're playing a lick, right? If I'm going... I kind of get lost in the movement that I'm doing. It doesn't mean I don't know that the 5 or the 4 or something is there. I do. And when I come out of that dwiddly thing, I'm going to drop down into something that connects to wherever I am in the progression at that point. For sure. So hopefully that helps you a little bit.
Super cool, man. Super cool. I think people love to hear you play. You know what I mean? They love to hear the finished product. And yeah. We love to hear you play.
I see. Well, thank you. Skinny says, is there a way to help visualize these layers? You have to study them. Like I've told stories where I used to sit in my study halls when I was in high school, and I would I would map out a scale, and I would just sit and I would study that scale. Now, I can't tell you that learning your entire fretboard as one unit is better than learning 1 or 2 positions, but being able to do different things. I can't tell you that one's better than the other, but my whole thing was I wanted to learn to see my whole fretboard, and I've never regretted it. Being able to move around anywhere I want to go is absolutely freeing versus I only know this one position, so I can't go anywhere. I am a huge advocate for moving around. If it's going to take you 3 years to learn all of that, I don't know that I would do that. Again, like Dan, I would try and set up some goals to try and achieve that. But the way you achieve that, whether it's 1 or 2 positions or whether it's your whole fretboard, is you got to study it. Practicing up and down is great in bucket number 1, but bucket number 2 says get a piece of paper and study that thing. Just study it. Just stare at it. Look at your fretboard and just stare at it. Like, can you see where you would go if you could, right? Yeah. Bucket 1 allows you to do that. It allows you to physically move. Bucket 2 gives you the template to see what you want to do. And bucket 3 makes it sound like music, obviously, right? So that's the most important thing is that you learn to see. Now, in your question, Skinny, is how do you visualize those? Well, let's say we just took one position, right? We just took A minor pentatonic, and we took A major pentatonic, and we took the hybrid of these two, and that would be our third one, right? And then for instance, A mixolydian, or in this case, it'd be A aeolian, because I'm playing in minor, so it'd be natural minor. I would have that as another option. These would be the things I would have. Now, if you're listening to me and you say, I don't know what natural minor is, then you throw that away. Because your 2 options are, okay, so you study natural minor, you study your theory, but now you're not working on layers anymore. So it's so easy for us to get distracted. The guitar is so, like I always tell people, it will win. We'll all die before we figure it out. You wouldn't think that with 6 strings and a few frets, it would be as deep as it is, but it is. It's a deep instrument. So what you have to be careful with is when you're learning things, don't keep getting sidetracked. Don't keep getting distracted by, well, what about that? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Believe me, I am as guilty of that as anybody. But the problem is if you keep doing that, it's like a dog chasing its tail. You just keep going in circles and you just don't get anywhere. At some point, you got to go, okay, this is what I need to study for the next 3 months or the next whatever. I need to figure out how to see this scale and I need to be able to play it. Bucket number 2, I need to see it. I need to visualize it. Bucket number 1, I need to be able to move around in it. I use the term meandering. You could jump on YouTube and type in meandering in my name. You're going to find out all about that, how to practice what you see. And then I need to use some backing tracks or a band or whatever it is I need. I need to start learning how to make this into music, which is what we're talking about, which is what creative blues soloing is all about. It's trying to make this stuff sound like music.
Guys, if you want to get the course, it's currently on sale right now. It's called Creative Blues Soloing. It's available at guitar-zoom.com. And there's some really cool bonuses right now. And a whole lot of people have already signed up for it. By the way, if you have already signed up for Creative Blues Soloing, the new course that Steve just created for you, please come back and tell us what you hope to achieve. Stating your goals publicly is one way to hold yourself accountable. So make sure you come back. And I totally forgot to mention this. We have a Facebook community of people who are premium members at GuitarZoom. And it's an awesome, supportive community. It's a very positive experience. We have folks uploading videos of new things that they're learning. Everybody is cheering each other on. It's a really cool community, which I think is extremely important in your playing, and especially in the kind of world we live in where there's a lot of negativity. I think this is a very positive place that you can go and feel very supported in your guitar goals, regardless of if you're a beginner or if you're playing the Spanish Mixolydian mode over some kind of, is that thing? Spanish Mixolydian? I don't know. I can't even remember. Is that right, Steve?
Well, Spanish Phrygian. I'm
Phrygian.
Spanish Mixolydian.
That's what it was. So look, it doesn't matter what your goals are. There's a place for you in the GuitarZoom community. It's only for premium members. So it's not everybody gets to go there. It's only for people who are premium members at GuitarZoom. So if you'd like to go and sign up for a membership, if you'd like to go and check out the new course that Steve created for you, we would certainly appreciate your support. The way we're able to keep these types of things ad-free and without doing sponsorships and that kind of thing is your support. So this is a user-supported community. So check out the course, Creative Blues Soloing, available right now at GuitarZoom. Okay?
I was going to mention that in the GuitarZoom community, we have this thing called Coffee House Friday, which every Friday, everybody posts videos of what they're working on. So it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or you've been playing a long time. It's just whatever works for you. Like the community, I mean, we all know what social media is like, and it's a necessary evil for some of us, unfortunately. But it is. But the community, we keep it clean. I mean, we keep it, if there's anybody in there that feels like that's a good place to cause issue, they just get kicked out. It doesn't matter whether they bought something or not. It's important to have something like that. Just because if you're a beginner or you're wherever, like I'm seeing a post here that says, how can you recover if you land on a bad note and you don't know where to go? Panic attack, right? Everybody lands on a bad note. Every single player on the planet lands on a bad note. If I'm not landing on a bad note right now, it's because I'm playing within the confinements of lines that I know I'm going to do fine in. It doesn't mean that happens every time I grab a guitar and try and jam over something. Sometimes I hit bad notes. It happens. So the point of the community is to stay honest, to keep people enjoying what they're doing and not be scared to post because somebody's better than you. Because you know what? There's always going to be somebody better than you.
That's true.
What are you going to do? I mean, as soon as you stop worrying about all of that crap in your world, you can just start playing and doing whatever it is you want to do. Because, again, I understand that. I mean, I started playing when I was 13. I was playing in bands in bars by the time I was 19. And I had this idea in my head that if you wanted to play in a bar, you had to be this good. And practice and practice and practice and practice. And I get out and I start playing in bars. And I'm like, how come everybody else isn't practicing? Like, it doesn't mean just because you're in a band or just because whatever that you've reached a certain level. And it doesn't matter whether you've reached a certain level. Like I've said, as soon as you get rid of the contest element, I'm not saying that being competitive is bad. For some people, being competitive is very good. It's very healthy. But there's a lot of people out there where that competition is not healthy. It doesn't help them at all. It frustrates them and makes them feel bad about their playing. And what are you going to do with that? If you're not using it in a positive way, then just try and don't use it at all, you know? So I don't know if that makes sense, but you have to try and learn to be good at what it is that you do in the way that works best for you. There's a million players out there that play this better than I do, or that better than I do, or this better than I do. And I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change. Every day I wake up, it doesn't change anything about the way I see. I love to play guitar. I love to play music. I love to write. I love to record. I love to do all of these things. And none of that stuff is going to change any of that. But I do like to practice, and I do like to get better, and I do like to study, just like you do. So if you think about it that way, it makes life a little bit easier.
Well, thank you for sharing your time and your talent with us, Steve. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. Always just like hanging out and reading what people have to say and listening and learning myself. I have been enjoying my new Mesa Boogie that I've got to make a little video and send to you. That thing sounds amazing, and my neighbors are thanking me for it too.
Yeah.
Even though it's only 50 watts, baby.
Yeah.
That thing.
Well, that's the thing too, is this whole new world of technology, whether it be a Kemper or a Helix or an Axe-Fx or the Quad Cortex is coming out, or plugins that you use. Like, there's this whole new world of amazing tones that don't have to be loud. Even things like power conditioners, if you guys know what those are. I'm just saying, there's so many things that you can do to be inspired. And sometimes it just takes, like my dad, when I was a kid, we were very, very poor, but my dad, every once in a while I'd come home from school and there'd be like a pedal on he wouldn't even know what it is, He'd go buy like some guitar pedal, or he'd buy guitar picks or something, and just trying to keep me excited and motivated about playing.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, staying motivated in some capacity, whether it's a thing that you have to buy or thing that you watch or a conversation that you have, you got to stay motivated. And nowadays, with all the negativity out there, you got to stay motivated quite frequently. Yeah. Like maybe daily, you got to find something and go, hey, that's awesome, or that's what I'm going to try and do, or, oh yeah, I should be practicing, or whatever it might be, just to keep yourself motivated.
Yeah. I love that idea of investing in yourself. I mean, really, guys, not to get too philosophical on you, but I think the most important investment, people talk about investing in whatever, different things. I think the most important investment you can make, now this is just me talking, this is my opinion, is in yourself. Make an investment in yourself, whether that's you're going to try to eat right, you're going to get better sleep, you're going to learn guitar, you're going to, whatever that thing is, because then what happens is when you make that investment in yourself, it actually kind of radiates to the people around you in your life. You know what I mean? And one of the ways you can do that is investing in the premium course, which is, hey, you know what? When you go and actually take your credit card out and make a purchase, then you're going to be like, hey, I just bought something. I need to go and use this thing. And sometimes that is actually the motivation to get you in there, to log in, to start watching the first video, to download the tab, to actually get going. And then, you know what? If you make like one major improvement, you're not like, let's say this Creative Blues Soloing course. If you get the course and you just make one major improvement that can like set you on another path of learning and growth, then it was totally worth it, right? So don't be afraid, guys, to invest in yourself, whether it's a new piece of gear or maybe it's just a new set of strings or some new picks or whatever. I just bought myself a new amp to keep yourself motivated, because sometimes that's what you need. You need to invest in yourself. So I would encourage everybody to do that.
Just one thing real quick before we go. If you are part of the VIP or Masterclass, we're live tonight. I've got a live session tonight, but you have to be part of the VIP or Masterclass group. But we're going to continue our conversation about recording and stuff like that. So I know there was a couple people on here that are from the group. So I'm just reminding you, 7 p.m. Central, join me live again, and we'll be going through recording and stuff. So
I didn't realize that there are so many premium members from GuitarZoom actually that come to these things. I forget about that. Thank you guys for your support. And also, if you are a premium GuitarZoom member, meaning you're a member of where you have all the courses, where you're a GuitarZoom member, whether you're a Masterclass member, a VIP, or if you just have one of the courses, please, the greatest thing you could do is to share like your experience with that and how it's helped you, how you've improved with other folks. Let us know. We love reading that. It keeps the fires burning. And we enjoy reading your stories, the story of why you play guitar and why it's important to you and your journey. We'd like to share that and walk along with you. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. If you want to get the course, it's available right now at guitarzoom.com. It's Creative Blues Soloing. Steve, thanks again. Really appreciate your time, buddy. Appreciate everything you've done for me, for GuitarZoom, for the community. You're just an awesome guy. And it's a pleasure to work with you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks again. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you later.
Take care, everybody. Take care, Dan. It was nice hanging out with you, buddy.
Yep. Always, man. Talk to you later.
All right. See you later. Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. Today's Guitar Monday motivation. This weekend I was talking to somebody and we were talking about guitar playing and we were talking about string control. This person was learning this thing. It's there we go. Okay, so I was teaching this little riff from a song you might have heard before, and we got to talking about string control, and it got me thinking maybe that would be something really nice to talk to you about today, is string control and understanding how to optimize that. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's just start off by talking about a chord, okay? Let's say, for instance, you were playing something like a C chord. We're going to start very easy, and then we'll just work our way up. And I've got distortion on for a reason, okay? Because with a lot of distortion on, I'm going to get even more noise, obviously. So it's going to take a little bit more to control. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to play this open C chord, and I've got a lot of distortion on, which I don't know that I would do, but we're going to use that as our example. Okay, so the first thing I have to understand is when I make that C chord, generally what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit the bottom 5 strings, and we're trying to avoid the 6th string. So what I can do is use the tip of my ring finger to touch the 6th string and kill it. Okay? So I can touch the tip of that with my third finger. I can touch that 6th string and I can deaden it out. Okay? So that's something you can learn to do at any time. Let's say, for instance, you were playing a G chord. I'm playing a 4-finger G. But instead of playing this 4-finger G, I wanted to take this first finger off and do more of like an AC/DC style G chord. What I could do is lightly touch that 5th string with the bottom part of my middle finger, and it's going to deaden it out. So when I strum, you're going to get more of that AC/DC kind of thing happening there. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to learn guitar even faster, go to guitar-zoom.com and click the Get Started button to get access to courses that are right for your interest and skill level. Again, go to guitar-zoom.com and click the Get Started button.